Hey there, you dastardly villains. Welcome back to the 2020 Rewind, where I'm taking a look at 20 more level 50 heroes and vigilantes and villains and rogues that I have on the City of Heroes Homecoming servers, the Excelsior Shard. This is episode 12. We're looking at our second Dominator of the bunch. Her name is Glaze. She's this mystical, magical construct of icy chilliness. She has ice armor, psionic assault, and ice mastery, the triple whammy minus recharge minus speed combo from the frozen wastes of whatever Nilfheim or whatever it is. I forget what they call it in Nordic or Norse mythology. Anyway, she's gonna slow the hell out of people. That's what she's gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the build here, the mids build, so you can see how and why and what. The first thing before I get into all the speed and recharge debuffing is she is a perma-dom build. I talked about this in my previous Dominator video, Bewitcher, episode 11. If you haven't seen that one yet, it's because you haven't liked the videos, you haven't subscribed to the channel, you haven't notified yourself, all that silly stuff you're supposed to do with YouTube. So go ahead and do that, and then you can go check it out at a later time. But anyway, what I talked about in that Dominator video, as well as the Dominator videos I recorded back in my 50/50 showcase, where I went through 50 characters last year over the course of a year, is that you're targeting 140% global recharge. You see, I have 107.5 right now. On a Dominator, if you can get this up to 140, which I can because Hasten, so this is a pseudo permadom, I guess you would call it. When I click Hasten, I've got another 7% recharge. It puts me over the 140 cutoff. And what that is going to allow me to do is make my dominate power, my domination inherent power that dominators have, that awesome game changing ability. And it's going to make it permanently on. In other words, once it charges up, which requires just attacking your enemy, and it fills your domination bar, and once your bar is 90% full, you can click it and it'll fire, and then domination goes off. You get damage boost, you get duration boost of your controls, you get magnitude boosting, you get meds protection, and you get an endurance recovery of all of your blue bar. So you get all these goodies just by clicking this thing. And it then lasts for 90 seconds. And then once the 90 seconds is up, it crashes and you got to go fill it again. But a perma-dominator has enough recharge so that your recharge is faster than the duration of the power. So you can see here that my current slotting without hasten on has my recharge at 96.39 seconds. The duration is only 90, so domination would crash and that would suck. But once I click hasten, my recharge is going to drop below the 90-second threshold, 72 seconds. So in that scenario, before domination expires, after 90 seconds, it will recharge and therefore the bar will refire because I'm going to put it on auto fire. I'm going to have control click on my dominate power and it's just going to keep firing over and over again once I have it fully charged up. I just need to remember to click hasten. That's the big difference in the liability of your pseudo permadom and your true permadominator, like I had with Bewitcher. She was pure domination permadom, and I didn't need to have hasten. I do have another build that I put together for Glaze, which got her exactly to 140% um, global recharge. I might show that to you before this, to end this video out, but just it is possible to make this character, this combo of ice control and psionics a true permadom. I just didn't do it. I kind of went for the cheaper, easier way by using hasten. Just got to remember to click it. All right, so that's kind of the backstory here, right? We've got a permadom build, and we're looking for a bunch of minus recharge. So now let's take a look at why this set works for the minus recharge as a thing, as a focus. If you go ahead and look at your control powers and your psionic attacks, this really kind of starts with psionic assault. And one of the things I'll always do with any of my builds is I like to focus on the weird kind of stuff or the secondary effects of powers. Because it's easy for you to just go and say, I'm just going to build for a bunch of damage, a bunch of accuracy, a bunch of recharge, or whatever. most powers are going to take some sort of damage, or I'm going to build to be super tanky and get a bunch of, defense and resistance powers, right? But for me, the fun challenge is to take a look at the secondary effects that your powers do and up with a plan or a scheme that uses those. So for Psionic Assault, if you're not aware, its little shtick, its side effect is minus recharge. So Psi Dart has a minus recharge. Mind Probe has a minus recharge. Mental Blast has minus recharge. I didn't take it on this build, but it has it. Psy Scream has minus recharge. Psy Lance has minus recharge. And Psy Shockwave has minus recharge. So that's what, 6 out of the 9 powers or something like that have minus recharge. So when it hits a target, it's the target's recharge, its powers coming back is slowed down. If you have your character ever hit by minus recharge by some psionic, casting attack or some cold attacks, you'll know how brutal it can be when your powers just stop recharging. That's what I was going for. So each time I hit you with one of my psi attacks, most of the time they're gonna slow down your recharge, not your movement speed, but your recharge. So if you fight, a bunch of seers like Arachnos, you'll feel this, or the those tarantula queens and stuff like that. Really messes you up and slows you down. All right, so anyway, boom, that's kind of the idea behind Psi Assault. Let's look at all that minus recharge and can we make it even better? Because the problem with the minus recharge on these powers is that it's pretty solid. For instance, Psi Dart has a minus 30% recharge on it. That's pretty juicy, pretty chunky. The issue though is that the duration on this is only 5 seconds, so you're not gonna be able to stack that very, very much. And so if you hit a guy once, it gets minus recharge, but then a few seconds later, the minus recharge wears off. So unless you're just constantly pouring psi attacks on it, you're not gonna be able to stack much with it. But that is where the ice control is really going to be your friend, because ice control has similar amounts of minus recharge and the durations are much longer than the psi. So the two together are just going to amplify one another, and you're going to be able to just crash the recharge of your enemies. And that's going to lead to a lot of control in that sense, but really more damage mitigation, because that initial burst of alpha damage you're going to take is probably going to be one of the only flurries of damage that's going to come your way, because by the time they can get their power to recharge, you've got them killed already. At least that's the plan. Now they may have more than one attack, of course, so they might get 1 or 2 attacks, 3 attacks, whatever on you, depending on how many enemies or what rank they are, what level. They can hit you more than once, but the idea is they're only going to get that first shot at you, and then after that, they're done. You're going to have a whole bunch of minus recharge stacking, and then you're going to have the controls, of course, on top of that. But Sidearm, minus 30. Mind Probe, minus 40, also 5 seconds. So we're looking at 70% right there. Psi Scream has a nice minus 50%. That lasts for 5 seconds. So we're looking at, what do we got? That's weird. This says 50 up here. It says 30 in the little pop. Oh, now it says 50. Sometimes there's a lag between those two. So there's 50 there. Mind Probe was 40. That's 90. 30 there. You get 120 recharge so far. Again, these are only short durations though, but you can hit pretty heavily. Then you've got Silence is minus 15%. That lasts 10 seconds, so greater duration. And then Psi Shockwave is a big one, minus 50%, and that's a 20-second duration. So, add these all up, you're close to 200% recharge debuff is potential. Something like that sitting over here in that 5 to 20-second range. And if you just keep attacking, that's going to keep stacking, keep layering, keep going. Now, where this gets brutal, though, is combine it with your ice control powers. So if you come over to ice control and take a look at this set, we've got Block of Ice has minus recharge. We've got Chillblain has minus recharge. We've got Arctic Air has minus recharge. Ice Slick does not, but Glacier has minus recharge. And Jack Frost, your pet, he has a Chilling Embrace aura. He has icy attacks. They also have minus recharge. So you've got lots of ways to minus recharge from your controls. I didn't take a whole bunch of ice control powers because this original build was I think, buff of ice control when Shiver was turned to Cold Snap and Flash Freeze was made an auto hit sleep. I think those are the two big things that were changed on this power. Oh, and Ice Slick got some damage added to it. Um, so anyway, you could, if you want even more recharge debuffing, you got Frostbite, your AoE Immobilize on a controller. I've taken that with Venom Kiss. I took it as an example, but on Dominators, I typically don't take the Immobilizes, either one of them. I did take Chillblain for the slotting and just as another attack because size attack chain a little bit on the soft side, lower side in the early levels. So Chillblain gives me another way to damage, but it has the minus recharge. It does have the immobilize. I can kind of, hold the boss in place, that sort of thing. Block of Ice, that's got some, great minus recharge. What's the numbers on these guys? Let's start taking a look at those. Pop this out here. So Chillblain, its numbers, we're looking at effects. Minus recharge is 20%. It, however, has a duration of 18 seconds. So remember, the original stuff like Side Art was only going for 5 seconds, but now you're getting into your controls. The weakest controls like Block of Ice and Chillblain, they're both got 18-second durations, and they're minus 30 and minus 20. So again, pretty chunky minus recharge, but triple the duration, quadruple the duration of some of those lower tiered psi attacks. So you're going to be able to hit with Chillblain and Block of Ice, have this 18-second duration to go to start hitting them with Psi Dart, Mind Probe, Psi Scream, Psi Lance, boom, boom, boom. Add that all up on a single target. And within, those 15, 18 seconds, you've got minus 100, 150 recharge on a target. And you can just keep layering that crap on. All right, then Arctic Air has that huge minus 50% recharge debuff. It is also a control power, right? It does have some confuse to it. I'm really not, I don't like look at it as a confusion. Control power, I talked about this before, again, with my Venom Kiss controller videos that I did. What was she, episode like 6 or 7 or something like that? Go back and take a look at the playlist. You'll see what I'm talking about. Where I have my proc troller Venom Kiss. She was ice poison, and so for her, I had talked about this that Arctic Air is not this awesome control power that confuses everything in sight like mass confusion. It's little pips of confusion for a few seconds, and then the guy goes back to attacking you. But it helps to mitigate because they're not attacking you nonstop. They're stopping for a second, maybe attacking an enemy. Maybe they get afraid and try to get away from you. Maybe they try to close to melee, but they're slowed. And then even if they do have an attack, they're only going to get one off because their recharge is so messed up because you got this minus 50% added to all the other stuff you're doing to it. All right, then you got Glacier was your other big minus recharge. That has a 50% debuff of recharge. It's a PBAOE hold, so that's another 18 seconds of debuff. That's shorter than the actual hold is. The hold's going to last longer the way I have it slotted. Yeah, my duration of the hold is, twice that, so 36 seconds. So, technically this is not really going to do anything because they're going to be held for those 18 seconds. But let's say it's a boss who isn't held, that sort of thing, or if somebody breaks out of your hold somehow, this can, then take effect at that point. But it's just giving you another layer of control, soft control. It's giving you another layer of damage mitigation from the minus recharge, so they're not able to just constantly be attacking you. The enemy's going to attack you once, twice, and then their powers are just, dormant. They can't do anything. And then you have to try to run. They get confused. They stumble around. They don't know what to do. And Jack Frost, he's got some great powers as well. If I can get them to open up, let's see if I can have this show to you guys. Yeah, there you go. You can kind of see it. All right, so the effects of his ice sword. See if that pops. Yeah, you guys see it. So it's a minus 10% debuff there for ice sword on its recharge. Then Chilling Embrace is the big one. Let's see if I can get that to show. Where is the Chilling Embrace? That's the slow. Jump height is 70%. Effects. Is it in the effects? Might be in the effects here. Yeah, okay, here it is. So the effects of Chilling Embrace, that's minus 50%. So Jack Frost just being next to targets, right? And if Jack is next to you, who's also next to target, your aura from your Arctic Air, his Chilling Embrace, that's 100%, recharge debuff right there of just standing next to each other in melee attacking stuff. So anyway, he's got other attacks, right? Freezing Touch, Hold, a Greater Ice Sword. And so a lot of these powers, the Ice Bolt are debuffing attack speed. Ice Swords, debuffing attack speed. I don't know if Freezing Touch is or not. Do don't see that it is. Anyway, it's a hold, so it's kind of irrelevant to a hold. But anyway, right, lots of minus recharge sitting here, and all of these ice control minus recharges, the durations are that 18 seconds, right? So you got Glacier's 18 seconds, Block of Ice is 18 seconds, Chillblain is 18 seconds, Arctic Air is essentially, you know, infinite seconds because it's on and it's ticking and causing the recharge debuff. So you've got that time window to then also layer in your Psionic Assault minus recharge. So that's the idea behind this build. That's what you're shooting for by combining these two. Just a total frigid queen you're putting together here and just slowing the crap out of things. Beyond that, it's kind of just a standard sort of Dominator, right? You've got controls, you've got immobilize, you've got a hold, you've got Ice Slick is sort of your one signature power. It's a patch. You drop it, the guys slip and fall, and has knockdown minus movement speed. It does do some minor DOT damage. You get a PBAOE hold. Overall, it's not a strong, solid control. You're not locking down things like I was doing with Bewitcher, where I had 4 or 5 different AOE holds or controls that I could just layer out on a single group or spread it around. Ice control is not like that. It's more melee, right? You're going to want to get in there with Arctic Air, I think. You're going to want to be able to Glacier. You're going to have Jack Frost next to you. And so you want to kind of utilize that proximity to you as your control and as your mitigation, and then destroy the enemy. Or in my case, more so just neutering their recharge so that they're no longer a threat. The other thing I'm doing is I'm leveraging that PBAOE melee style with Psionic Assault's kind of bread and butter powers Drain Psyche, which is your PBAOE self buff and debuff to enemies. So it buffs your regen, buffs your recovery, and then debuffs the enemies around you. And then Psy Shockwave, which is your big old, tier 9 PBOE blast of psychic energy that damages a bunch of people. Nowhere near as good as it used to be back before they nerfed it. I think it was on live that they changed it to during the Dominator revamp of 2006 or something. But anyway, it's still pretty solid, right? And it has control. It's got a stun to it. So that's the other thing is Psy Assault is probably one of your more controlling secondary sets that you can get for Dominators because you've got TK Thrust, which is a knockback. You've got the Subdue, which is a single target immobilize, and you got the PBAOE Psy Shockwave Stun. So you got some soft and hard control mixed in there, and you add in the soft control, the control-y power or esque power of minus recharge. So that combined with sort of a softer control, ice control, makes this combo pretty strong at locking down enemies in a non-traditional sense. And then you couple all that with the controllery tertiary powers, your ice mastery. So if we take a look at those choices, you've got Sleet and Ice Storm being the two controllery powers. So Sleet and Ice Storm, same idea. They're a placeable AoE patch that you drop. And with that combined with Ice Slick, you have 3 things you can drop around a corner from, breaking line of sight to just start your enemies flopping and falling all over the place. Because Sleet has the minus speed, minus recharge, minus defense, minus resistance. It also has some knockback on it as well, 0.1. So it's got enough to knock down, I think, minions, get them slowed, debuff their everything pretty much. And then you can slot it for damage, you can slot it for procs, that kind of thing. I'll take a look at my slot in a second, but right, it's going to cause some knockdown, going to cause some falling over. Ice Storm, similar kind of idea. Ice Storm on its own does not cause knockback or knockdown, but it does have the minus speed, it does have the minus recharge. You can, and I've done this before, slotted it for some knockback. I've put, I think it's Ragnarok is the set that I'll use in there. And Ragnarok has a purple set and it has a chance to knock down. And so you can turn Ice Storm into a sleep power. So the two of them together are going to do damage, knockdown, minus speed, minus recharge, wreaking havoc. Combine that with Ice Slick, you could, knock down everything. What I have seen though is on occasion, if you stack multiple ways to knock down stuff, even though it's supposed to be knocked down, it can turn into knockback if enough magnitude kicks in. I think that's why it's only at a point 0.1, like with sleep, because you're not trying to knock things back. So point 0.1 is enough to overcome 0 and cause something to fall over. So even though something is called knocked down, it's technically knockback, but the value of the knockback 1, 2, 5, 10, whatever, is how far or how much oomph you're going to give to the enemy or the target and throw them down. So point 0.1 is not going to like throw them across the room, it's just going to drop them there. But I've seen before, if you kind of stack these things together, those will add up and you can get like a knockback at 1 or 2 and something goes, flying. I think the Ragnarok's knockback is a little bit heavier duty. Anyway, that's something you can do. I didn't do, but it's more mitigation, more minus speed, more minus recharge, knocking things down. So all that stuff added together makes this a pretty strong Dominator controlling build, but more so from the minus speed, the minus recharge, than just the raw lockdown power. Then anything else about Psy Salt that's crazy? Nothing, nothing out of the ordinary. I think Psionics still has the out of the box longest range of powers, if I'm not mistaken. At least that's the way it was back in the olden days. So Psy Dart, looking here, its range is 100. So I think typically a tier 1 blast is 90. So you get the extra 10 feet on that one. I didn't take Mental Blast. Like I said, I could, but I already kind of had Dart and I already had Psy Lance. And again, this build was back before they reordered or made it so that you can actually take your tier 2 secondary at first level. So that's why I don't have that. In hindsight, I could, right? I could go back and take Metal Blast as a stronger version of Psy Dart and do some more damage, because I don't really have Psy Dart slotted heavily because it wasn't a heavy damage power. I just kind of use it as a damage proc and just fire at will and get some cheap minus recharge in there. So I could throw in Metal Blast. I didn't. But anyway, right, so you're hitting Dart, you got the Probe, you've got Scream as your cone attack. It's Strain Psyche and Psy Shockwave are the two, again, signature kind of powers, the things that, you're really going to go after. It's going to take a look at Mental Blast. Mental Blast range, yeah, it's also 100 feet, so that's what I was suspecting. So in general, the ranges on these powers, yep, Subdues 100. Silence's range is, well, I actually have it over 175 out of the box. I think it's 150 is like the normal range of a snipe for most powers. Size Scream as a cone is 60. I think that's pretty standard if I'm not mistaken. I think its arc might be pretty big. 30 degrees. That's not super big. Anyway, right. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Everything is a standard controls, attacks for Dominators. I went ice armor from the tertiary pool, so I had to build for defense, and that's fine on a Dominator because it lets me grab a bunch of Luck of the Gamblers, which have the 7.5% boost there. It also does have a pseudo heal there because Hoarfrost is a max hit point boost and some toxic resistance. So it's a nice little, maybe on the way into a fight you can click it, or you're taking a bunch of damage, you can click it and get some health out of that one. Frozen armor, defense, we already talked about that. And then so overall, taking a look at the numbers, you can see that I really went more on the defense side than resistance. So my defense numbers, they're okay. It's not going to win you the day. Smash Lethal's pretty strong, 40 some percent. Your positionals are in the 20s. Yeah, okay, right? Resistance is not that great. You got the Smash Lethal resistance, which I only have that much because I dipped into the fighting pool in order to get it. I took Tough and Weave because I'm going to get into melee. If I'm going to go into melee with a character outside of, let's say, even with brutes and tanks, I'll often take Tough, at least Tough, just to, cap that smash lethal. But on a Dominator, I'll take it, or Defender, whatever, if I'm going to get into melee and I need a little bit extra survivability. So that's going to help me a little bit, right, with the 30%. None of the other numbers is going to do much. Cold 36 is good. But really, that's it. You kind of have some lightweight mitigation in the form of just your shields that you're carrying. Most of your mitigation is going to come from that Arctic air, and then you're just your controls, and that's the way Dominators play. You either control or you die. End of story. It's very blastery for those of you who've never played a Dominator. It's that blaster style where you have to out damage and kill before they damage and kill you. It's a very active process. Okay, then the last thing we'll take a look at is the Incarnate stuff that I grabbed on this character. So scoot that up a little bit more, slide this down. So taking a look at my overall numbers again, we've got set pretty okay-ish defense and resistance. The big weakness that I had to shore up, though, is the endurance issue. Domination does give you endurance back, yes. I'm going to get that every 70, 80 seconds, but I'm going to be burning through a ton of endurance. If you take a look at my numbers, you'll see why. Let me scoot my body this way. So I've got my 3.3 is the drain, sorry, the recovery. My drain is less than, half that. So in other words, this is bad because I always target a bare minimum of 2 to 1 recovery to drain. So if I'm just sitting here with my toggles on, I'm barely recovering, twice my normal. If I was recovering only 1.88, I would be breaking even, right? So I'm not really recovering that quickly. And then once you start clicking your powers, you're going to blow through your blue bar in no time. And I had super high recharge, so I'm going to really be blowing through these powers like nobody's business. So what I excuse me, I'm choking on my water here. What I did to kind of, solve some of these issues or, fill some gaps here is first and foremost ageless in order to fix this whole endurance problem. So I already have the endurance recovery from domination, but ageless, when I fire that up, boom, my recovery goes up because I want the core side, and I get a big old endurance boost, and you get the recharge boost on top of that. So this is really going to help me as a dominator. It's going to refill the blue bar. It's going to boost my recovery. Now I'm up to 13.5. And look at it, it's taking my recharge all the way up to 247. And even if I forgot to click Hasten, I'll still have perma-domination. So I have Hasten and Ageless in order to make sure my domination doesn't crash. And domination plus Ageless is going to make sure my endurance doesn't crash. So I've got redundancy here with Ageless. The other thing I went with is Nerve Radial because that's going to boost your hold, your accuracy, your confuse, and your defense buff. So when I click this, you can see my defense numbers are going to jump up about 5% or so across the board. So that's going to help survivability. The hold duration, of course, is useful for all my holds. Confused duration is going to be great because that's going to team up with my Arctic Air Confusion and make that last a little bit longer. So rather than maybe just a handful of seconds, now maybe they're confused for 8 or 9 seconds. And then the accuracy, I'm not going to overlook that. I mean, I've said it before. Hey, who can't use more accuracy? But the other thing about this is that Psionic Assault is one of the only assaults that doesn't have a means of plus to hit or whatever in its repertoire. You've got Drain Psyche. That is your special. You don't have power build up. You don't have aim. You don't have build up. You don't have power boost, whatever. You have no way to just plus to hit stuff. And you've got to hit. So accuracy with nerve is going to help all my different powers. I do have some means in order to get some extra to hit her, and I think that is sitting here in subdue. I've got chance for build up. I believe that boosts your to hit. Yeah, it looks like it's boosting to hit was that 34% or something like that? If I'm taking a look at my totals, let's see if I can get that to show up or not. I don't know if it's showing up here. Anyway, so Subdue's got the chance for buildup in it, and then I've got Block of Ice has a chance for plus damage. I've got the superior ascendancy of the Dominator net. So I got a couple of powers here. They're going to boost damage, going to boost accuracy a little bit, and help me out somewhat. All right, then going back down to the Incarnate stuff, I've also taken to help with the mitigation issue, to help with the control issue. I've got two things. I've got Cognitive Core Flawless. That adds a chance to confuse to your attacks, as well as some damage over time psionic. So that's going to team up nicely with my Arctic Air, which again, I was saying that it's not the greatest control power. Well, now this gives me some more confusion I can add to the mix beyond what Arctic Air is doing, beyond what Domination is going to do to Arctic Air. Beyond, I forgot if I mentioned this or not, I also have the Contagious Confusion proc in Arctic Air to give another chance for confusion. So now this cognitive interface gives me a chance to proc confusion with any of my damaging attacks. It's going to add a mag to 4.3 second duration confuse to anybody that, I hit with any of my psionic stuff or my I think it's going to carry through like Ice Slicks damage and Ice Storm and Sleet, I believe. It should go through those, I think. Uh, don't know that for a fact or not because I think sometimes the pseudo pets don't carry your interface debuffs. But anyway, that's going to give me some more confusion. And then I've also taken to add, to the pot here is I have Control Core Embodiment as my hybrid, and that is going to give me the chance for +1 magnitude on my controls, and it's going to add in some psi damage to things that are controlled, I believe, are the ways it works. So something's controlled already, it has a chance to fire the psi damage effect, if I'm not mistaken. Let me read what it says here. Chance for +1 mag to the controls, chance for psionic damage to controlled enemies. So it's kind of like with when controllers have containment, right? So anyway, boom. Adding that in here. So if you take a look at Arctic Air now, I think, get the numbers, the totals on this, kind of see if we can interpret all this mess now. The pop-up window here. So we've got, let me shut them off for a second first. So Arctic Air, turn this off. We'll turn off the cognitive, turn off the control. I think that's everything. All right, so normally Arctic Air, there we go. All right, so here's Arctic Air without domination, right? You're going to get 6 seconds mag 3 confuse on even level enemies. Domination's active. Now you got a chance to fire a mag 1 control on top of that, right? So I go from mag 3 to a mag 1 as well. So in other words, mag 4 total. And those two can, stack together, which is going to control or confuse bosses. And by the way, that's with your alpha engaged nerve, which has the extra duration on confuse. So if I shut that off, you can see my durations drop about a couple seconds or so, second and a half. So boom, I've got that possibility going with contagious confusion. If that fires, all right, so if you check it out, the status effects, so contagious confusion is going to add a chance for another mag 3 confuse that lasts 21 seconds, if I'm interpreting this correct. 25% chance for that thing to proc. So people are standing in my aura, my Arctic Air. I've got the mag 3 from just plain Arctic Air. I've got a mag 1 if its domination is active, which it's going to be. So I've got mag 4. If contagious confusion fires, there's another mag 3. I think that any target that is affected by contagious confusion, I think, can fire to an adjacent target, So I'm not 100% sure how contagious confusion works, but reading the pop-up here, if somebody's the target of your confusion, they have a chance for to be affected by the contagious confusion effect. And so what it's saying is that they'll gain this contagious confusion for 10 seconds. The chances are it's a 4.5 ppm procs per minute, 20% chance. So you target them with the confused. So your Arctic Air is targeting with confused. Some of those targets are going to become not just confused, but contagiously confused. Then the target that is contagiously confused has a chance to proc. I believe that's what the second line there, the bottom line saying is there's a 10-second window that it can 33% chance to confuse somebody next to it. I believe so. It's kind of like a chain or like an insidious spreading of confusion. But the primary target of the confused can become contagious. And then for 10 seconds, it can confuse somebody else, a chance for it to seep or spread into them. So in Arctic air, this adds up this, this craziness to it. So that's why you're seeing all this extra stuff going on here. And then if you keep adding in the madness, you throw in your cognitive, which has the chance to confuse. Now, this is not going to affect Arctic air directly because Arctic air does not do damage, and you need to have a damaging power for this chance to confuse to fire. But let's say I hit him with Psi Shockwave while I'm standing next to him with my Arctic Air running, or my rains are carrying. Let me just see if it shows if the rains will carry the confuse effects or not. Yeah, it does look like it does. So if you look here, this is Ice Storm. It's showing, yeah, so it's showing the cognitive interface. So check that out. Awesome, right? So cognitive interface. Sleet should be the same thing. I don't know if Ice Slick carries it. Yeah, so Ice Slick it says carries as well. So all those little damaging patches, and then you standing in melee, all that confusion is going to add together, and then you throw in there, just to make this even more awesome, because this is the other big thing about this build, is the control core embodiment gives you the +1 mag chance. So that's what you're seeing here as well. I've got another proccing confusion. So yeah, add that all together with Arctic air. Uh, you're got the initial confusion mag 3. Then domination gives you another mag 1. That's 4. You've got the contagious confusion can be jumping to other people. So I think they can spread to one another within the range there. So that's the mag 3 there. So if that's true, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then the control cores can give you another one. That's 8. So mag 8 confuse. And then the rains and the other damaging powers are adding another potential mag 2 from your cognitive interface. What's that? Mag 10 confusion to everybody within your radius of your Arctic air and those patches and things. So that's where your real mitigation comes from. That's where your real control comes from. Just stacking and layering all this stuff on top of each other. And then again, don't forget you've also slowed the recharge to 0 negative, like they're not going to move. They're not going to attack. They're going to be, and if they can, they're so confused, they're just beating on each other. So this is the beauty of this build once you add it all together and just stacking all this craziness, and the enemy doesn't know what to do about it. Then you just throw in some damage procs here and there, right? I've got Side Dart has a damage proc in it. I've got a damage proc sitting in Drain Psyche. Arctic Air has 2 of them with Cacophony and Malaise Illusions. I already told you I got the plus damage or build up here. I've also got it in Block of Ice. Glacier has a damage proc in it. Jack Frost has a defense aura in him. Lance has a damage proc in it. Shockwave has a damage proc in it. Sleet, I could put a damage proc in here, but I went for the slow set because of I was looking for a recharge. If you look at all my sets, I'm going for a lot of plus recharge. So that dictates some of the choices here. And like I said, I do have a higher recharge build where I have this actually slotted with an Ice Mistrals, and I think I put the chance for cold damage in that one. But anyway, then Ice Storm, I don't have the damage proc in it. I just went with just total damage and recharge. I suppose I could swap out and whatever, and get the damage proc in there. I didn't, but I suppose I could. But anyway, lots of damage potential, just lots of slowing, lots of recharge debuffing, tons of confusion potential. It's a beautiful kind of setup. So she is going to do very well as long as she can keep the bad guys or the good guys real close and uptight, and they're not going to be able to do anything. And even if they're not super close, I have those options to drop patches around the corner and open fire from range without even being seen. And then once they start flopping and falling, and maybe some of this confusion procs fire in, then I can dive in there and start, unloading with my PBAOE stuff. So this character is much better in melee, but can range around the corner is her best option. Just straight firing, exchanging sniper fire from 100 yards. No, that's not what she's built to do. All right, well there you go. That is the build here. That's Glaze. Frigid recharge queen, gonna slow you down, gonna beat your ass when she's got you nice and cold. So I'm going to go ahead and run some solos against some councils and 52s, 53s to show you some strategies, how the build actually works, and then run some team stuff, see how she handles that. I think it'll prove my point. Hopefully it does. Otherwise, I look like an idiot. All right, I'll catch you in those solos and the teams. Peace.